17th April 2019, senators, members of the National Assembly, members of the various county assemblies and other devolution stakeholders gathered in Kisumu at the Grand Royal Swiss Hotel for the 4th Annual Legislative Summit.
So I'm glad to join you today at the 4th edition of our country's legislatures in this scenic city of Kisumu to think through the gains of devolution arising from legislation.
To engage in vibrant and objective deliberations aimed at strengthening devolution. The theme of the 4th summit was Accelerating Devolution, Assessing the Progress and Addressing the Gaps in Policy and Legislation.
Why is this dear to us? Because if you look at the county assemblies, that is where the rubber meets the road. We are the people that are interacting directly with Mwananchi. So it matters so much, the policies and the legislation that we put in place and the backup that we receive from Senate, so that now we do oversight, we do representation for our people.
At the national level, legislative authority is shared between the Senate and the National Assembly, while at county level it is vested in the county assemblies.
So we look forward to seeing all county assemblies working with us and working closely with the executives to ensure that we align our budgets, we align our CIDPs to the Big Four agenda. That is a journey we must all work together, and that is a role as legislators you can play in ensuring that we remove Kenya from the list of food insecure nations of the world. We make a decent home for every Kenyan, and we ensure that every Kenyan is healthy and our young people get employment. I don't think there's a bigger role we have as leaders than ensuring those 4 things, and that we can work together.
Since the inception of the legislative summits in 2016, the partnership between the Senate and CAF is one of value. Together, both institutions have made great strides on matters of legislation, representation and capacity building that would not have otherwise been achieved alone. Thus, the 4th Legislative Summit 2019 presented an excellent opportunity for the Senate, county assemblies and devolution stakeholders to constructively dialogue on matters affecting devolution.
The only way through which these legislative assemblies or the county assemblies can perform their constitutionally given duties is to strengthen the county assemblies to ensure that holders of those offices are assured of their present and future stay in offices in order to oversight the executive in a strong way. Failing which, honorable members, no matter what the Senate does, no matter what the National Assembly does, if there is no strong oversight at the counties, the whole concept of devolution disappears and the person who suffers is Wanjiku.
The summit sought to build on the gains of the first 3 legislative summits, while providing an avenue for Kenya Legislatures to critically interrogate their roles in the devolved governance structure 6 years after its implementation began.
In Article 216, the Commission is mandated to make a recommendation on the sharing of revenue, the nationally raised revenue, first between the 2 levels of government and among the 47 county governments.
The topics are very exciting. I think they are very pertinent topics, very relevant to the current situation in the country, issues of accountability, issues of transparency, issues of development, and all these are very important in this country. So I think so far a big success.
The bills that touch on county assemblies and county governments, ni ule mama akona mtoto, they should be given priority. The bills that are going to enact and give more ability to the county assemblies, ni ule mama mjamzito, they should be given priority.
If it will only take EACC and DCI to unearth corruption in the counties, without a single report done by county assembly members indicting the county executive, then in reality you are indicting yourselves because you are declaring yourself irrelevant. We want to see reports of county assemblies that are capturing pilferages of money, misuse of the resources in the counties, so that then we can say the county assembly has been vindicated because the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has picked from where the county assembly left, and they are taking action based on the recommendations that come from yourself.
The level of information and the panelists has been a one-stop shop to know everything that is happening within the devolution platform. We've also had an array of speakers from the government, from the counties, members of county assemblies, members of Senate, a lot of expertise. And this has been very useful because it has enabled us to identify where the gaps are.
The summit focused on 5 main objectives: to assess the progress made in legislations that support entrenching of devolution, to identify the gaps and challenges in legislation that are impeding devolution and develop measures to address them, to identify opportunities that can be harnessed to accelerate devolution, to provide a platform for dialogue against key actors in devolution to learn and share experiences, to strengthen inter- and intragovernmental relations for effective implementation of devolution. Held alongside the summit was an exhibition expo by various stakeholders who showcased their work and support towards devolution. Pre-summit conferences were held on the 13th and 14th of April before the main summit event. The pre-summit events were on the Youth Convention Forum.
Youth is not a state, it's a face. And in the Kenyan context, it's exactly 17 years. It's 18 to 35. So when we talk about being youth, I hope we remember that is a phase. That some of us were where you are, and we went through that phase, and we are in another space. And therefore, what is it that you do to maximize on that period that you have?
We believe that affirmative action is a human right, and the representation of women does not compete with that of youth.
When we discuss issues of youth, let us remember that the youth are not a homogeneous population.
Pre-summit resolutions from the Youth Convention, whose theme was Youth Leadership Through Legislative Processes, resolved that young MCAs are to establish and adopt county-specific youth implementation tracking mechanisms to periodically inform and review the process of youth empowerment programs, youth job creation, youth participation in public decision-making processes, and available priorities for youth. Another key resolution was that the Senate and young MCAs should initiate a legislative process that will compel the county executive to develop a costed county integrated youth action plan that is aligned to the county integrated development plans, that is, the third medium-term plan of Vision 2030, the Big Four agenda, and the Sustainable Development Goals. The said youth action plans will guide the county governments during annual planning and budgeting, implementation of youth programs, projects and budgets, and monitoring and evaluation. The costed county integrated youth action plans should take the form contemplated under Section 47 of the County Government Act. The Youth Convention concluded with the launch of the Kenya Young Members County Assemblies Association, KYMCA, and its strategic plan. Conference for Legislators with Disability, PWDs.
And it is a clear testament of the fact that disability is not a taboo anymore, and that we can robustly discuss about it and openly talk about the kind of status that we get in society.
We are Kenyans who drive the economy of this country as persons. All the activities that other citizens of Kenya involve themselves in, we also involve ourselves in those activities and run the economy of this country. And the economy of this country, the Big Four agenda, can never be achieved without recognizing this very big potential market, this very big economic powerhouse of persons with disability.
The pre-summit Conference for Legislators with Disability, PWDs, resolved that legislators representing PWDs ought to be adequately facilitated and resourced to enable them to effectively carry out their representative roles and mandates. They further noted that despite the progress made in the representation of PWDs in elective and appointive positions, there is still need for urgent electoral reforms to realize adequate representation of persons with disabilities in the national parliament and county assemblies in line with Article 81, C, 90, 97, 98, 100 and 177, 1C of the Constitution. As an immediate right, they called for action towards ensuring that the principle of 5% representation of PWDs in elective and appointed positions is realized. Further, they noted that although major strides had been realized in the decentralization of the operations of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, some essential services for PWDs remained largely inaccessible. As such, they called for greater consultation and collaboration among key players, including line ministries, particularly the Ministry of Health, the National Fund for the Disabled, among others. Conference for Women Legislators.
Women senators and GEC, it is your responsibility to protect women MCAs.
Members of the county assemblies, remember, the stronger you make your caucuses, the more stronger you come out in the counties, the stronger the women in the National Assembly will be seen, the stronger the woman of Kenya will be to speak on her own behalf and on the behalf of her children.
In realization of the resolutions made on the 3rd Annual Legislative Summit, over 99 of women legislators had registered their caucuses and formalized them. A resolution to train and build the capacity of women MCAs had also been carried out successfully, with the curriculum having been developed and women MCAs having been trained on key areas including budgeting and legislation. Some of the highlights of the resolutions from the 2019 pre-summit conference for women legislators include the need to review existing regulations with a view to harmonizing statutory institutions governing the establishment and administration of all affirmative action plans, to explore innovative mechanisms to promote equitable distribution of the positions of women, and a passionate appeal for the recruitment of male leaders to the He for She initiative aimed at supporting the quest for women leadership in the county assemblies. A special friendly match as a curtain raiser to the Legislative Summit 2019 at the Moi Stadium, Kisumu.
Anwar Oloi tip anapata nambari 12 mgongoni, nambari 12 mgongoni anapata anaitwa Kipto na kata moja mbili tatu amechukua nambari watazamaji kwa
So the county assembly's combined football team upset the senators 2-1. It was noted that devolution was one of the biggest gains of the 2010 Constitution of Kenya, which has spurred development in various sectors of the economy.
CAF at the executive level will continue to engage development partners and national government under a subcommittee called Intergovernmental Relations, subcommittee of the Executive Committee of CAF, with the help of the Senate, who have been extremely beneficial partners. The partnership between Senate and ourselves actually changed the face of MCAs and how we are viewed in this country.
Members of the county assemblies have a critical role to play in the devolved system of governance and must be adequately resourced and facilitated to carry out their roles and duties. Financial autonomy and independence of county assemblies must be assured. Development partners made a commitment towards supporting innovations that facilitate devolution such as the establishment of regional economic blocks and peer-to-peer learning mechanisms.
CAF needs to have more support from government, national and county governments, but also from development partners where they can fill in the gaps.
We are looking forward to being able to demonstrate the strengthening of CAF as a coordinating institution, as well as strengthening the ability of the 7 county assemblies that we are supporting to be better able to discharge on their mandate, especially their oversight mandate.
The need for the establishment of the summit as a statutory body was emphasized. A working group was proposed for the development of a legal framework to guide future summits. The summit further recognized the need for the inclusion of the National Assembly in future summits. The 3-day summit focused on 9 general sessions covering various topical issues. The sessions had various panel discussions from experts. A few of the recommendations: that the formula still needs to be enhanced so as to improve horizontal sharing as per Article 203, 216 and 217 of the Constitution. There is need for continuous updating of data because the formula heavily relies on the data that is available. Closer collaboration between CRA, KNBS, KIPRA and other research institutions is critical because the data needs to be verifiable. General Session 2 highlighted the place of regional development authorities, RDAs, regional economic blocks, REBs, and their oversight in the devolved system of government. The panel recommended that REBs are a good idea because they will aid the fulfillment and aspirations of Vision 2030. However, they require political goodwill and strong oversight. Currently, information about REBs is not adequately shared with county assemblies. Further, concerns were raised over the extent of executive powers the REBs will yield. The panel recommended that there is need to create incentives for counties to collect their own revenue and optimize their revenue collections without compromising businesses. County governments need to embrace technology in revenue collection to enhance efficiency and accountability. Revenue collection departments in the counties ought to be well resourced with qualified and competent staff. They also need to adopt enforcement practices. Good governance and accountability. The panel made the following recommendations: that county assemblies should form a network of county assemblies against corruption to provide oversight in county matters, that systems be put in place that can flag corruption in real time to identify companies that have received most tenders, as well as counties to benchmark with Makueni County, which has implemented open contraction. That the Senate and county assemblies fast-track legislations that seek to promote achievement of greater autonomy and independence of county assemblies for improved oversight. County Ward Equalization Fund, County Printers Bill, Impeachment Procedure 2018, Public Participation Bill, amendment to the PFM and legislation to establish the County Assemblies Forum. General Session 5 was on aligning the legislative agenda of county governments with the Big Four agenda. The national and county governments commit to undertake legislative review of laws impacting the Big Four agenda, including the Housing Act, PPP Act, Built Environment Bill, Land Value Index Bill, and Physical Planning Act. Legislatures at the 2 levels of government commit to develop new enabling laws and policies to support various components of the Big Four agenda. These laws will include, among others, a county health information law to aid data collection, laws to enhance ease of doing business in Kenya, and laws to facilitate the access to affordable housing by persons with disabilities and other marginalized groups. The national and county governments will partner with local institutions of higher learning in research and data and use of technology and geographical information systems (GIS) techniques to ensure that future. General Section 6 highlighted on public finance management in Kenya, financial oversight in Kenyan legislatures. General Session 7, the 2019 Kenya Population and Household Census and delimitation of boundaries. The panel made the following recommendations: that there is need for a formal and real-time involvement of the Senate and the county assemblies going forward to ensure data integrity and to also champion public participation. That IEBC should consider expanding and not diminishing the rights of the citizenry in as far as boundaries delimitation is concerned. That accurate data needs to be kept so as to avoid national census in future and move in tandem with technology and international best practices to avoid recurrent wastage of public resources. The final day of the summit saw the General Session 8 tackle the discussion of constitutional review. The panel made the following recommendations. Constitutional reform is necessary and the process should not be politicized. Senators and MCAs have a role to play and they should be leaders of the process. Anything that promotes unity in the country is welcome, and the principle of national integration is key. Interests of the legislature need to be captured if there will be a referendum. The constitutional review debate should focus on strengthening devolution rather than abolishing devolved units that serve the same purpose. The final General Session 9 delved into the role of media in accelerating devolution and recommended that the media and the counties work together seamlessly in order to impartially report issues affecting Kenyans. Women and PWDs need to receive more coverage from the media.
The Senate and county assemblies are the key guardians of the legislative agenda to advance and cushion gains of devolution. I also acknowledge that the role of county assemblies in discharging their legislative mandates so far. Democracy cannot exist without oversight. The will of the people goes hand in hand with checks and balances. This is the only way to ensure probity and fidelity to the law. When devolution was created, the Constitution granted counties important responsibilities and significant resources far beyond the scope of what local governments enjoyed before. As a result, county governments are expected to operate a higher level of accountability and transparency. County assemblies are therefore watchtowers of devolution. Oversight is a sacred duty. You cannot let devolution suffer any kind of plunder on your watch. If the executive does not like the questions you're asking, that is a good thing. Ask again and keep asking until you're satisfied that there's nothing fishy going on in your counties. Devolution is not at its fullest, but we have headed there, and we'll get there if we keep working together.
To conclude, distinguished guests, development partners, we must now refocus our energies to ensure that we strengthen county assemblies. One of the issues that have come out very strongly is the issue of financial autonomy of county assemblies. And I agree with some of our members who took to the floor at the plenary that we will not come back here to discuss about financial autonomy, anchoring CAF in law, the pension scheme bill, and other issues. These are some of the deliverables that we expect that in the next legislative summit, Senate will have delivered.
Thank you very much.
Ama namna gani my friend?
Yo.